My daughter-in-law shoved me in my own kitchen and called me a burden. That was a Thursday. The following Monday, I left a manila folder on her doorstep. She thought it was an apology. She texted my son, "Your father finally came around." She was still smiling when she opened it. I was reorganizing my woodworking shelf in the garage. Maple stain, cherry stain, walnut, all alphabetical, the way I've kept them since 1991 when I heard tires on the gravel. My son Theodore's truck. I knew it was him before I saw it. That truck needs a new muffler, and he knows it and does nothing about it. Same as always. He came through the side door without knocking. His wife Cassandra was 2 steps behind him, already looking at her phone. "Dad, we need to talk about the house." I set the walnut stain down carefully, put the lid back on. I'd learned years ago that conversations that start with, "We need to talk about the house," don't end quickly. "Coffee's on," I said. "We're fine." Cassandra moved past me into the kitchen like she lived there. She'd done that since they got married 6 years ago. Small thing. I'd let it go 600 times. Theodore sat at the kitchen table, the one his mother and I bought at an estate sale in Bucks County in 1988. Cassandra stayed standing, leaning against the counter with her arms crossed. "Dad, here's the thing. We've been looking at property in Scottsdale." I poured myself a cup. Waited. "Investment property," Theodore said. "Rental income. But the down payment is the issue. We need 40,000. I turned around slowly. Theodore was looking at the table. Cassandra was looking at the table. Cassandra was looking at me. $40,000. It's an investment, Dad. You'd be part of it. We'd put your name on the deed." I thought about my savings account. 63 years old, retired from 31 years as a civil engineer. Barbara gone 4 years now. What I had was what I had. No pension miracles, just careful living and a paid-off house in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. "Theodore," I said, "you still owe me 11,000 from the bathroom renovation loan 3 years ago. That was different. We were in a tough spot. You're describing right now, too." Cassandra pushed off the counter. "Walter, we're trying to build something. We're not asking for a handout. It's an investment. You'd benefit too." "The number is no," I said. "Not yet. Not until the first loan is repaid. The temperature in the kitchen changed the way it does before a storm." Theodore's jaw tightened. Cassandra set her phone on the counter, screen down. That was when I knew the real conversation was starting. "You know what your problem is?" Cassandra's voice had dropped. "You've never trusted us. Not once. Theodore bends over backwards for you, fixes your gutters, drives you to appointments, and you sit on that money like it's a monument to yourself." I kept my voice even. I said no to the loan. That's all. She stepped closer. Her finger came up. "You're selfish. You always have been." Barbara saw it too, she just never said anything. Barbara's name in her mouth that way. I felt something close up inside me like a window latch. "I think you should leave," I said. That's when she shoved me, both hands flat on my chest, hard enough that I hit the edge of the counter behind me. My hip caught the drawer handle. I grabbed the sink to keep my balance. Theodore stood up. "Cass." He pushed me to it, she said. Same thing she said 5 seconds after doing it, like she'd rehearsed. I steadied myself. The pain in my hip was sharp and specific. I looked at Theodore. He was looking at the floor. "Get out of my house," I said. "Both of you." Now. They left, Cassandra first, Theodore behind her with one look back at me. Not quite apology, not quite nothing. The door didn't slam. That almost made it worse. A slam means feeling. The quiet close meant he'd already decided which side he was on. I stood at the sink for a long time, wrung cold water over my wrists. Old habit from the years when project deadlines piled up, and Barbara would find me standing exactly like this. She'd put her hand between my shoulder blades without saying anything. Just her hand. I went to the bathroom mirror. My hip was going to bruise. I could already feel it. The man looking back at me was older than I thought of myself as being. 63 and standing in his own bathroom, checking for damage after his daughter-in-law put her hands on him. I went back to the garage, finished alphabetizing the stain. That evening, I called my brother-in-law Kenneth. He'd been Barbara's older brother, but he'd stayed close after she died, closer than some of my own blood. He lived in Allentown, 30 minutes north. Kenny, I said, something happened today. He listened without interrupting. That's always been his way. You called the police? He asked when I finished. Not yet. You got a camera? I stopped. The doorbell camera. Theodore had installed it himself 2 summers ago after a package got stolen off my porch. I'd forgotten it entirely. I'll call you back, I said. The app was still on my old phone. I scrolled through motion events. There it was. Thursday, 2014 p.m. I pressed play and watched my own kitchen doorway from the porch angles through the storm door glass. The picture was grainy through the glass but clear enough. Cassandra stepping forward, both hands, me going back into the counter. I watched it 4 times. The 4th time I paused on her face right before it happened. Not rage. Calculation. I called Kenneth back. I have it on video, I said. The next morning, I drove to a law office in New Hope. Marguerite Hollenbeck, Family and Civil Litigation. I'd met her twice at the Doylestown Rotary. Knew her reputation was solid. Her assistant got me in by 10. Marguerite was 61. Direct. No jewelry except the plain watch. She listened to everything. Asked 3 questions. Watched the video on my phone without expression. Physical assault is actionable, she said. Civil and potentially criminal, depending on what the DA decides to pursue. You have video. You have a bruise that I assume you documented. I pulled up the photos I'd taken that morning. Hip lower back where I'd got the edge. Get a medical evaluation today. Walk in urgent care, document everything. She closed her notepad. And Walter, don't contact them. Not a word. Not a text, not a call, nothing. I drove to the urgent care on Route 2002. The physician's assistant was thorough. Contusion to the left hip, she wrote. Patient, reports being shoved by family member. I watched her type it and felt the strange weight of those words becoming official. My phone had been buzzing since the night before. Theodore. I'd read them without responding. Dad, just talk to us. Dad, come on. Dad, this is getting out of hand. Dad. Cassandra's name never appeared. Smart or coached, I couldn't tell. That afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table with a piece of paper and wrote out every loan. First loan, October 2021, 11,000 for the bathroom renovation. Agreed repayment within 12 months, 0 repaid. I went through my bank statements, printed the transfer receipts, put them in a folder with the medical report and the urgent care paperwork. I am not a man who documents for emotional reasons. I documented because Barbara always said I trusted too much, assumed too much. She kept records of everything. Insurance policies in alphabetical folders, every contractor receipt going back to 1995. I teased her about it. Now I understood. Marguerite filed the civil complaint on a Tuesday. Assault and battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and civil claim for the outstanding loan with interest. The process server delivered papers to Theodore's house in Warminster on Thursday morning. Theodore called me 17 times between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. I didn't answer any of them. At 4 p.m. I sent a single text. My attorney has advised me not to discuss the matter directly. Please direct communications to her office. I included Marguerite's number. Then I set my phone face down. My neighbor Agnes knocked on my door that evening with a casserole dish. She was 71 and had lived 3 doors down since 1997 and had attended Barbara's funeral and brought food every week for 6 months after. She knew something without me saying anything. Walter, she said, you look terrible. Come in, I said. I just made coffee. She sat across from me at the kitchen table and I told her most of it. Not legal details. Just the facts of Thursday. She set her coffee cup down carefully. That woman put her hands on you. Yes. In this house. Yes. Agnes looked around my kitchen. At Barbara's rooster collection on the shelf above the window. At the photo of Theodore at his college graduation on the refrigerator. The one where Barbara was beaming and I had my hand on his shoulder. "Walter," she said, "I was walking back from Helen's when I heard the truck leave. I saw them come out." Cassandra was talking fast, animated. Theodore had his head down. I thought it was just another argument. "Did you see anything through the door? Any of it?" She paused. "I heard it, your voice, then a thump, then her voice. I was right at the edge of your driveway." "Agnes," I said carefully, "would you be willing to say that to an attorney?" She looked me in the eye. "That woman put her hands on you in Barbara's kitchen." "Yes, I would." I called Marguerite the next morning. "I have a neighbor who heard the altercation," I said. "She's willing to testify." There was a pause on her end that felt like satisfaction. "Get me her contact information today." The counter-response from Theodore's attorney arrived 8 days later. Mutual confrontation. Provocative language. Cassandra's shove described as a reflexive response to feeling physically threatened. I read it standing at my kitchen counter and actually laughed. 63 years old, 5'10", and I had supposedly made Cassandra fear for her safety. Marguerite called it boilerplate denial. "We expected this," she said. "Don't engage." Then my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Text message. "Mr. Holloway, my name is Preston Webb. I know what Cassandra did to you because she did something similar to me. We should talk." I stared at it. Preston Webb. I didn't know the name. I googled it. Preston Webb, Warminster, Pennsylvania. Age 58. Former business partner of Theodore Holloway, dissolved 2020. I sat down. I texted back. "How did you get this number?" "From someone at your son's old firm who didn't think what happened was right." "I have documents. I have photos. There's more to this than you know." I thought about Marguerite's voice in my head. No emotional decisions. No unvetted contacts. I forwarded Preston's message to Marguerite with a note. "Who is this and should I meet him?" Her response came back within an hour. "I look into it. Don't respond yet." She called me the next morning. "Preston Webb is real. Former co-owner of a residential landscaping company with your son, dissolved after a financial dispute. There was a restraining order filing from him against Cassandra that was withdrawn as part of a civil settlement. He signed NDA. Can he still talk to us?" "Criminal exception," I said, remembering what I'd read after the initial filing. Marguerite paused. "You've been doing research." 31 years as an engineer. I read everything. "Criminal exception may apply. Let me make contact through proper channels first. If he's willing, I want to hear what he has to say." Preston Webb showed up at Marguerite's office the following Wednesday. He was compact, careful, sat with his hands on the table. He'd brought his own folder. "I was Theodore's business partner from 2017 to 2020. He said. We ran the landscaping company together. Theodore was fine. Cassandra was the problem. She handled the books. I started noticing payments I hadn't approved. Vendor invoices that didn't match any actual vendors. Equipment charges for equipment we didn't own." "When you confronted them?" Marguerite asked. "A meeting at their house. Just me and Cassandra. Theodore was supposedly out. I brought printouts. Bank statements." She screamed at me, said I was stealing from them, that I was making it up. Then she grabbed a coffee mug and threw it. "Caught me right here." He pointed to a small scar along his left eyebrow. Then she came around the table. "Did she shove you?" She grabbed my shirt and threw me into the wall. "I've got 140 pounds on her. Didn't matter. She's strong, and she was out of control." "Did you call the police?" "I called Theodore. He said she was under stress. He said maybe I'd misread the financial situation. He chose her." I looked at my hands on the table. The same dynamic. Always the same. "How much did she take from the company?" Marguerite asked. "What I could document, 22,000. What I suspect, more. I settled for 12 cents on the dollar and signed the NDA to make it stop." He looked at me directly. "I saw your civil complaint through a mutual contact. I know it's not criminal, what you filed. But I'm willing to testify to the pattern if that's useful. The NDA covers civil claims, not criminal proceedings. Marguerite's pen was moving. This is useful, she said. Very useful. That evening I drove past Theodore and Cassandra's house in Warminster. Not to stop, just to think. The lights were on upstairs. Cassandra's SUV in the driveway. Theodore struck with the bad muffler. They were in there, probably discussing strategy, probably certain I would back down. I thought about Barbara. She'd never trusted Cassandra. Not fully. She'd been careful about it, diplomatic, never said anything harsh. But I remembered the quiet way she'd changed the subject when Cassandra's name came up toward the end. I'd thought it was just personality clash. Two strong women. Now I wondered what Barbara had seen that I hadn't. My phone buzzed. Theodore. Dad, please. This is destroying our family. Cassandra is awake. You're making it impossible. I pulled into a gas station. Read it twice. Typed. I didn't make anything impossible. She put her hands on me. Then I deleted it. Typed. Please have your attorney contact Marguerite Hollenbeck. Sent that instead. 3 days later, I got a call from a number with a 215 area code I didn't recognize. Female voice, older. Is this Walter Holloway? It is. My name is Sylvia Crane. I am Theodore and Cassandra's neighbor in Warminster. I've been their neighbor for 4 years. I got your number from a woman named Agnes, who I met at a community meeting last week. I sat up straight. Agnes. Sylvia, I said, what can I do for you? Long pause. I want you to know, and I'm not sure I should be saying this, but I've seen things at that house. Arguments mostly, Cassandra screaming loud enough that I can hear it from my yard. One time, about 18 months ago, she threw something through the storm door, broke the glass. Theodore was outside. She threw it at him. Did anyone call police? He cleaned up the glass himself. I asked if everything was okay. He said they'd had a disagreement. He looked embarrassed. Sylvia, are you willing to put this in writing or speak to an attorney? Another pause. My husband thinks I should stay out of it. But your son? Theodore, he's been good to us. Snow blows our driveway every winter without asking. He doesn't deserve what's happening to him either. She lowered her voice. And she doesn't deserve to keep getting away with it. I called Marguerite immediately after. I have a second witness, I said. Neighbor in Warminster. Pattern of behavior. A pause. Walter. How are you finding all these people? I'm an engineer. I trace systems. You follow one line far enough, you find where else it connects. She was quiet for a moment. This changes our position considerably. Two independent witnesses to pattern of behavior. One with documented prior assault. One with observed domestic violence incidents. The radio, the medical documentation, the loan records. She paused. He's going to want to settle. I don't want to settle, I said. Marguerite was quiet for 2 seconds. I know. That's why I took your case. The offer came through her office on a Thursday. Cassandra and Theodore would repay the $11,000 loan in full within 60 days. Cassandra would complete a 12-week anger management program. Both would sign a statement acknowledging the incident. In exchange, I would withdraw the civil complaint. No criminal referral, Marguerite noted. And no admission of the pattern. They wanted it contained, clean, fast, no public record. I told Marguerite I needed 48 hours. That evening I drove to Kenneth's house in Allentown. He made chili and we sat at his kitchen table the way we used to sit at mine when Barbara was alive. The four of us, Thursday nights, sometimes cards and chili, and the kids asleep down the hall. Theodore, at 7, 8 years old, laughing at Kenneth's terrible card tricks. I showed Kenneth the settlement offer on my phone. He read it slowly. What do you want, Walter? I want him to understand what she is, I said. I want him to know before it gets worse. You think he doesn't know? I think he knows and is choosing not to. Kenneth set the phone down. Barbara used to say the thing about Theodore was that he needed someone to choose. That it was his weakness and his goodness at the same time. That he loved completely and that made him blind sometimes. I looked at the chili I'd barely touched. She was smarter than both of us. If you go to trial, Kenneth said, you might win everything. You might also put your son in a position where the only way he survives emotionally is to hate you. I know. And if you take the settlement, she gets away with it. I know that too. He refilled my bowl without asking. That was Barbara's move too. The people she loved, she just refilled their bowl. Here's what I think, he said finally. Take neither one. Go back and change the terms. The counter-proposal Marguerite sent on my behalf had 4 conditions. Full repayment of the loan, Cassandra's anger management, a formal restraining order. Cassandra must remain at least 500 feet from me for 2 years, and a written acknowledgement, signed and notarized, that the physical altercation occurred as described in the civil complaint. Not a settlement agreement with confidentiality, a notarized statement of facts. That last part was what they didn't want. Theodore called me at 8 p.m. the night Marguerite sent it over. I answered, Dad, Theodore, you want her to sign something saying she assaulted you. Officially. Notarized. That's correct, Dad. Do you understand what that does to her? To us? I understand what it does to the record. That was my point. His voice cracked slightly. Dad, she's my wife. I know she is. And she put her hands on me in your grandmother's kitchen, in the house where you grew up, while she was asking me for $40,000. Silence. I need you to look at something, I said. I'm going to text you 2 things. Look at them before you call me back. I sent him the screenshot of Marguerite's email with Preston Webb's statement summarized, and I sent him the photos Sylvia had taken of the shattered storm door glass from her yard, which she'd sent me that morning without my asking. The storm door photo hit him. I could tell because he called back in 4 minutes instead of the hour I'd expected. Dad, when did that happen? About 18 months ago, according to your neighbor. She told me she slipped, that the door just gave. Theodore. Long silence. Preston Webb, he said finally. I know what she did to him. I told myself it was a one-time thing, that he provoked her. I waited. She threw a bowl at me last year, he said. Ceramic. Missed my head by maybe 3 inches. I cleaned it up and didn't say anything to anyone. A ceramic bowl. 3 inches. Theodore, I said, this is not going to get better on its own. He didn't speak for almost a minute. I could hear him breathing. In the background, I heard a television. Then it went quiet. He'd moved to another room. What happens to her if she signs the statement? Nothing automatic. It becomes part of the civil record. If something happens again, there's documentation. It protects you, I said. Not just me. He exhaled. Long, slow, like he'd been holding his breath for years. Give me a week, he said. He came to my house on a Sunday morning 7 days later, alone, without calling first. I opened the door and he looked like he'd lost 10 pounds and not slept well. I stepped aside and he came in and sat at the kitchen table and put his hands flat on it, the way he used to do as a kid when he had something hard to say. I got her to agree to the terms, he said. All 4. All 4. She's not happy. Her attorney pushed back on the notarized statement for 2 days, but she agreed. I sat down across from him. What made her agree? He was quiet for a moment. I told her if she didn't, I was going to be the one who asked you to pursue criminal charges instead. I looked at my son. 53 years ago, I'd held him in a hospital in Philadelphia and thought, without any poetry or exaggeration, that I would do absolutely anything for him. That was brave, I said. His jaw worked. I should have done it sooner. The bathroom, the money, Preston. I kept making it smaller, telling myself it wasn't that bad. She could be so good, Dad. When things were good, they were genuinely good. That's the hardest part. I know, I said. I believe you. He looked up. You do. Your mother used to say, love doesn't come with an instruction manual. You were doing the best you could with what you understood. He put his face in his hands for a moment. When he raised it, his eyes were wet. He didn't apologize for that. We sat there for a while. I made more coffee. He told me Cassandra had agreed to move in with her sister in Cherry Hill while they figured things out. He'd hired a couples therapist, which felt both too late and like the right thing simultaneously. The notarized statement arrived at Marguerite's office on a Tuesday afternoon. 4 paragraphs, factual, precise, signed by Cassandra Holloway and notarized by an officer in Bucks County. She acknowledged that on Thursday, the 3rd, she entered my residence, that a verbal confrontation occurred over a loan request, and that she made physical contact by placing both hands on my chest and shoving me, resulting in my striking the kitchen counter. Marguerite emailed it to me as a PDF. I printed it, read it standing at the kitchen counter where it had happened. Then I put it in the filing cabinet. Barbara's filing cabinet, alphabetical folders going back to 1995. I put it under H. Holloway, Cassandra. Statement of fact in front of every contractor receipt and insurance document she'd ever filed. Everything in its place. The following week, Kenneth drove down from Allentown, and we sat on my back deck for most of a Saturday afternoon. He brought a 6-pack of the lager Barbara used to buy, and we drank 2 each and left the rest in the cooler. Was it worth it? He asked. Not confrontationally, just honestly. I thought about it for a while. The way you think about a project after it's finished, looking for what held and what didn't. I got the loan repaid, I said. I got documentation that protects Theodore going forward. I got Cassandra away from this house. That's not what I asked. I know. The neighbor's kid was mowing 2 yards over. That particular sound, summer afternoon, same as every summer going back decades. Barbara used to bring lemonade out to kids who mowed nearby. She was relentlessly generous in ways I'd taken for granted. I miss your sister, I said. I know you do. She would have seen it earlier. All of it. She would have seen it earlier. All of it. She would have said something without making it a fight. Probably. He took a sip. She also would have said you did the right thing. Eventually. I thought about Theodore sitting at this kitchen table with his hands flat on it, looking like a man coming out of a long sleep. About the ceramic bowl, 3 inches from his head, that he'd cleaned up alone and told no one about. Yes, I said. I think it was worth it. 2 weeks later, Agnes brought over a pie. Blueberry, which she knows I like and makes badly, which is beside the point. We sat at the kitchen table, and she told me she'd given her statement to Marguerite's office, and that the paralegal had thanked her, and she'd felt, for the first time in months, useful. She's gone from Warminster, Agnes said. Cassandra. I know. Theodore, working on it. That's the honest answer. Agnes looked at Barbara's rooster collection on the shelf. She never said anything about it. She just looked. Barbara would have known what to say to that boy, she said. Yes, I said. She would have. Agnes cut the pie and we ate it without talking much, and outside the summer evening was coming in slow and golden through the kitchen window. The way it does in Pennsylvania in July, when the light goes sideways across everything and makes even ordinary things look like they matter. I washed the plates, put them away, started the woodworking project I'd been putting off since March. A small cabinet for the garage, nothing elaborate, something to do with my hands. The maple stain was exactly where I'd left it. People ask me sometimes what I was thinking during those 4 days between the shove and the folder. The honest answer is that I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about a filing cabinet. Barbara kept every document this family ever produced. Contractor receipts, insurance policies, tax returns going back to 1987. I used to tease her about it. She'd look at me over her reading glasses and say, Walter, the truth doesn't defend itself. You have to give it somewhere to live. I didn't understand what she meant until I was standing at my own kitchen counter with a bruised hip and a folder full of bank statements, medical reports, and a doorbell video I almost forgot I had. What I've come to believe, not because anyone told me, but because I watched it play out in front of me, is that dishonesty requires maintenance. It's not a one-time thing. Cassandra didn't just shove me on a Thursday afternoon. She'd been building toward it for years. Every loan request that went unpaid. Every time Theodore chose her version of events over what he could see with his own eyes. Every argument that ended with someone cleaning up broken glass alone and telling no one. Dishonesty compounds. It borrows against the future until there's nothing left to borrow against, and then it gets physical, because that's what happens when a person has run out of other tools. The thing that stayed with me most wasn't the shove. It was Theodore telling me, near the end of all of it, that a ceramic bowl had missed his head by 3 inches and he'd cleaned it up alone and said nothing. He'd made himself small to keep the peace, and the peace kept shrinking anyway. That's what I wanted him to see, not that his wife was a monster. People are rarely monsters, but that the pattern he was living inside had a direction, and the direction was not good, and staying quiet was not the same as keeping anyone safe. I spent 31 years as a civil engineer. The job taught me that a structure either has integrity or it doesn't. There's no partial integrity. A bridge that holds most of the time is not a bridge you trust. What I did, the folder, the attorney, the notarized statement wasn't about punishment. It was about making the structure visible so Theodore could decide what he actually wanted to build his life on. He's in therapy now. Cassandra is in Cherry Hill. What comes next between them is their business, and I mean that without bitterness. I told him what I knew, and I gave it somewhere to live, the way Barbara always said. Agnes brought a blueberry pie. Kenneth drove down from Allentown. The summer light came through the kitchen window the way it always does in July in Pennsylvania, sideways and golden, making ordinary things look like they matter. I started the woodworking cabinet I'd been putting off since March. Maple. Nothing elaborate, but solid all the way through. That's the only kind worth building.